Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick Scrutton and I'm going to be your host today. If you haven't been with us before, welcome to the Gimme Review page. Today I'm going to do a slightly different video for you guys. I'm going to do a what's in the bag for me. Had a few requests for this as a club fitter, as a club tester now as well. Just want to walk through what I've got in the bag, why I use it, why I've picked it. And some of the choices might surprise you guys as somebody who tests golf clubs day in, day out, new gear, and I'm fitting it all the time. But I'll let you know why I've got what I've selected in the bag, and yeah, stick with us. Okay guys, so yeah, as I mentioned, welcome to the channel. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us obviously get more content onto this channel, get more guests moving forwards as well. And if we have, when we do release any new videos, you'll be the first ones to know. So please smash that subscribe button now for me. Okay, so what's in the bag for me today? I'll run through each section of it for you guys. And then as always, if you've got any questions by the end of the video, please let me know below. But let's start with the big stick. And for me, I've got this Callaway here, Epic Max LS. So this is 2021, this came out, and I've traditionally played older drivers. I've never played the current models for whatever reason. For me, it's all about how it looks. So previous to this, I was in a Ping G Series LS Tech, which was obviously going back to sort of 2015 area when that was released, maybe even a little bit earlier, I think 2014, I think, and absolutely love that head. My predominant strike, if I have a miss, is into the toe area. So whenever I'm selecting a driver head, it's all about what performs well, center to slightly toe side. And that is something that's really important for me. So how it looks down by the golf ball, and then also how it performs in that area of the face. So I would never typically select a driver that didn't perform well high toe, because if I'm having a bad day, that's where my strike moves into, and it's only going to punish me. So traditionally, the Pings were very, very stable in that area. Now, I've traditionally gone for Tech heads or Max LS heads here because I don't have any problem launching it and spinning the ball. So I'm always trying to control that launch, that spin, to give myself the optimal launch and spin characteristics and numbers to optimize my distance ultimately. But I moved into this because I really liked the look of the head. I could also move the back weighting a little bit more, which I didn't have that option in the Ping. And did a bit of testing with this, I found it was very stable at the toe as well. So it gave me the low spin numbers I was after out the middle, but then also it gave me that optimal number out the toe section as well. So I love the way it looks. This to me sits square to slightly open, and that's something that I'm looking for as well. It's a 9-degree head set up in neutral and standard, so I haven't done anything to that. And then the back weight is relatively central. Now I know I just mentioned about having that toe side and heel side, and I have had a little bit of a play with that over the last year or so. I have had it in the heel a little bit and then lofted the club down. And then I've also lofted the club up and moved it more into the toe area. So I've had a little bit of a play with that. What I liked about this particular head was in the wintertime, to give myself a little bit more carry, I lofted the club up. So it was a 9-degree head, lofted up 1 degree to get it to 10, and it still sat absolutely dead square for me. So I was able to optimize my carry numbers in the winter time, because obviously we're not really getting much rollout in the winter. So I was trying to carry it as far as I possibly could, but it didn't get the ball going left for me because it didn't really close that face down. Because I would say this Max LS head is probably more of a neutral to fade bias head, I would say. Moving into the shaft, I've traditionally always played Mitsubishi shafts. This is a Diamana DF60 in an S-Flex, and it's tipped 3/4 of an inch as well. Plays 45 inches on the dot, and it plays at D3 as a swing weight. And that's traditionally what I've always played my drivers in terms of the length and the swing weights for them. In terms of grips, I moved into this Golf Ride +4 Align a couple of years ago now. Traditionally, I was fitted into slightly bigger grips in the bottom hand to take a little bit of taper out. So when the +4 was released, that suited me perfectly. And then I was also introduced many years ago by Simon at Precision Golf to having a rib underneath my grips as well, which just really sits in my hands very nicely. So I've used a rib now for getting on to nearly 20 years. So when the +4 came out and the Align, the perfect grip for me, and also saved Nuno, who builds all of my clubs down at Precision, saved him a lot of hard work in terms of having to build the grip up and then also add in the rib as well. So this is absolutely perfect. I have it stretched 1/4 of an inch in the bottom hand. So basically we'll get the standard length for the grip, and then we'll add 1/4 in, tape it, and I stretch it just a little bit, so it really then gives me exactly what I'm looking for in that bottom hand. But Been using this now for a couple of years. Have to say, really enjoy it. Great driver for me out the toe area as well. And so that's the big stick for you guys. Okay, so moving on into the fairway woods now. And I have done a video about this in the past. For me, this is a very personal part of the bag. You need your fairway woods to do multiple jobs for you. They've got to be good off the tee and give you the desired flight, not too spinny, be able to hit your distance, obviously, and be very safe as a club if you don't fancy hitting driver. But at the same time, you've got to be able to launch them off the deck, and that is really important as well. I play these TaylorMade Sim titanium fairway woods. I've got a 3-wood here at 15 degrees and a 5-wood here at 19 degrees. And I've played them now since they came out. So again, they're almost kind of same generation, slightly older, 2020, 2021, same generation as the driver. Now, I've done a huge amount of testing, and obviously I've done a huge amount of fitting over the past 5 years, and I still haven't been able to find anything that gives me the numbers that these clubs do, but also gives me the visual that I'm after, the head shape, everything about them. They just work perfectly for my game personally. So being the titanium version, very quick off the face, so ball speeds are rich, which I need. I'm not the quickest player in the world. You know, I'm about 107 to 110 with driver. So I'm just over 100 miles an hour with a fairway wood when I hit it. And so getting onto par fives, I will occasionally have to hit fairway woods. So these are important clubs for me if I really want to compete at an elite level, being able to get in and around par fives in 2 and then make my score on those holes as well. Now, I do have technically 15 clubs in the bag here. So sometimes I'll rotate between a driving iron at 18 degrees and the 5-wood as well. But typically in the winter time, I tend to play the 5-wood, to be completely honest. Now, looking at the sleeves for these two, I do have them lofted down ever so slightly. And the reason for that is, again, I like to have the face sat ever so slightly open. I am a drawer of the golf ball. So I always want to see it start slightly right at target and then draw back over the top to target. If I see the ball starting straight or slightly left, that's always a bit of a concern for me because I can lose it to the left-hand side then, which is not ideal. But I always like when I put a club down for it to lay square to slightly open, and that's exactly what these TaylorMades do when I have them in that slightly lower loft setting. But absolutely love these both. I've actually got stock shafts in these, believe it or not. They are Diamanas. It's their FW75, their Dia-LED series. One thing I would say is I've got them in X-Flexes, because typically the standard sort of shaft that you would have that comes with a club like this play a little bit softer than the aftermarket versions. So being in the X here, that just helps. It just firms it up a little bit in the tip section. But yeah, got that in the 3, got that in the 5. Absolutely love those. Can't see those moving out anytime soon. I did do a video on our channel where I tested them against QI35 and some of the newer products, and shot for shot, they still compete very much. So I'm very happy with those. Can't see those moving out the bag anytime soon. Moving on into the irons, and I've now played this particular setup here since 2014, which seems like an awfully long time to play a set of irons, and it is. But because I've been so happy with the way that they've performed, a little bit forlorn to want to move out of them, to be completely honest with you. I'm going to have to eventually, because obviously they don't make the head anymore and I'm running out of groove to a certain extent. But really my next set that I move into, I would be trying to replicate this particular set here as much as I possibly can. So I'll talk you through what I've got. So at the top end of the bag, I actually have 3 driving iron heads. These are the Callaway Apex UTs, and I've got an 18 degree, a 21 degree, and a 24 degree. Now, typically they were designed to be used as a 2-iron, a 3-iron, and a 4-iron, but I use them as my 3-iron, my 4-iron, and my 5-iron, so slightly stronger in loft. That's because of my dynamics in my golf swing. I'm not somebody who leans the shaft a huge amount, and therefore using stronger lofted golf clubs helps me control my launch and my spin and gives me exactly what I'm after. So what I do is I've taken these heads and I've built them to 3-iron, 4-iron, and 5-iron. So as I say, the 3-iron, I rotate in and out from time to time, but the 21 and the 24, they play as my 4-iron and my 5-iron throughout the season. Absolutely love these heads. I feel as confident with a 4-iron and a 5-iron in my hand as I do with a 9-iron and a pitching wedge. And that's really since I moved into this particular model of head. And this would be something that even if I did get a new setup in terms of the main nucleus of the bag, I would probably keep these in until touch wood, until the faces fail or they don't work anymore, because I I absolutely love the feel of them. I feel so confident over the ball with them, and I've become quite a good long iron player because of that. So what I would always say to people when I'm fitting them or when I'm testing these sort of clubs out is you've got to find something that gives you that confidence over the top of the golf ball. At the end of the day, it's got to give you the right numbers and everything, but when you put it down, really, if you can have that feeling where you feel as confident with a 4 and a 5 iron as you do with a 9 iron and pitching wedge, you're finding success as far as I'm concerned when you look down. Who cares what it looks like? Realistically, I know it's a personal thing that in terms of the visual of it, but if you put someone down, you think you're going to hit a good shot with it and you can hit your number, I feel that's a real strength if you can find that within your golf bag. But in terms of these set up here, so I have the KBS Tour V 120X, which for somebody of my speed is probably at the upper end in terms of weight and the profile in terms of how stiff these play. But I've always gotten on with slightly heavier shafts in my irons, and the stiffer tip section of the Tour V controlled my launch and my spin. Now, to offset that, because these UT heads are relatively low spin because of their construction, hollow head, thin face, they come off very quick. What I've actually done in the 3 iron, the 4 iron and the 5 iron is soft step these irons. So I'm actually using a 2 iron, a 3 iron and a 4 iron shaft. What that does is it just makes them play a little bit softer, especially in this tip section here. And that just offsets the lower spin heads for me. So I still get that weight of the Tour V, I still get that firmness of the profile throughout, but just in the tip section, it doesn't play as stiff as a 3, a 4 and a 5 iron would play because I've soft stepped them. If you want any more information on that, I can provide that in the comments below, but you can also find some information online about that. But that's a way of me being able to offset the head and the characteristic of that lower spin head with the shaft there. So I've soft stepped just in those 3 irons there. I haven't done that in the rest of the bag. Now moving on into the main nucleus of the bag. So my 6 and my 7 iron, the 2014 Callaway Apex. So again, sometimes when people play with me, being a plus figure handicap, people say, oh, I'd expect you to be playing a blade or a muscle cavity or something like that. But again, I've always tried to make this game as easy as I possibly can for myself. And I just love how forgiving these heads are. Again, my predominant bad strike with the irons, which is the same as a driver, it moves into the toe section. And I've just found these heads traditionally been very stable at that part of the golf club for me. They're not quite as hot off the face as the Callaway UT, but they do give a bit of additional ball speed compared to the Apex Pro that I play at the bottom end of the bag. And they transition from the Apex UT into the Apex Pros quite nicely. So effectively I play 3 different model of iron within my iron set. But Tour V, KBS Tour V 120X, just stand not soft stepped in those. That's the 6 iron and the 7 iron. And then from the 8 iron downwards, I play the 2014 Callaway Apex Pro. This was the iron that Danny Willett won the US Masters with. It was also an iron that Kevin Kisner played for a series of years. This is 1025 carbon steel. Beautiful feeling, absolutely love these. They maybe just wouldn't give me the ball speed I'd be after as I moved into sort of a 6 iron, for example. So I just play them from 8 iron down. So 8 iron, 9 iron pitching wedge, absolutely love them. Same shaft setup. These are all standard length. And I work off of a D2 swing weight with my 6 iron, and then I progressively get a bit heavier as I work towards pitching wedge and a little bit lighter as I work towards my 3 iron there. But I've used that set now since 2014. Callaway supported me when I was playing full time, and then I had these built by the guys down in West Byfleet Precision Golf to a very, very good specification. And then since then, I've just trusted them, I've used them to good effect. I'm definitely in the market for some new irons now, and I definitely think over the winter time, as we get into 2026, I'm gonna look to try and get some new irons in the bag. I am losing a little bit of groove in the 9 iron and the pitching wedge, so it's about time I looked at some new irons. Okay, into the wedges, guys, and again, I play some slightly older wedges. I've got Callaway X Forged wedges. So again, these came out similar sort of time. These are quite old now. I've bought up as many of these as I possibly can, even in different finishes. So they did also like a raw finish in this head as well. And I've got those, and then I'll sort of rotate them as I go through the year. So I'm not constantly running out of groove, but I've got a 48-degree head here, a 54 and a 58. So that's my gapping in there. The reason I use a 48 is my pitching wedge in my iron set is a bit stronger. It's at 44. So I'm keeping a nice 4-degree increment. And then I move into 54 degrees in my middle wedge, because that just works absolutely perfectly for me. in terms of the gapping that I want, that I can hit the 54 degree, 100 yards on the dot, 115 to 120 with the 48, and then the 58 I very rarely hit sort of flat out, but I can get about 80, 85 yards out of it if I want. Pretty standard grinds on the 48 and the 56, which I've bent to 54. And then I've got the C grind, which I absolutely love as a grind in my 58. They've taken a bit of wear and tear, no two ways about that. These are the conforming grooves. So when these are originally were released, which is pre the groove regulation change, they had the McDaddy groove, which is now an illegal groove. You wouldn't be able to use that in competition. So I have the conforming heads here, which are a slightly different groove configuration, but absolutely love those. Round the greens, unmatched, 1025 carbon steel again, feel absolutely beautiful. Love the head shape. And as I say, I've got several versions of those. So now I'll just rotate them. So I'm not constantly moving into bite. I'm not wearing out those grooves that I want. But what I would say is, again, a bit like with the irons, I am going to have to move into some new wedges eventually. So I'm going to be doing some testing over the winter. There's been some really good wedges released back end of this year, the TaylorMades, the Callaways. Obviously the Vokeys are always very strong. So stay put to see where I go with my wedges moving into 2026. And then finally, we've got the putter. So I've always used a number 7 model from Odyssey for years and years and years now. Since it came out, my sort of putting model would be Luke Donald. I used to love the way he went around business around the greens. And so what he would do, I would copy it effectively. He used a number 7, so I wanted to use a number 7. But actually it works really nice with my putting stroke. I've always felt like it just wants to swing itself. I love the distribution of the weight here. And I've had lots of different kinds. I think I've owned pretty much every iteration of the number 7 model that Odyssey have released. Now I've sold a few of them recently because I was losing out on space in the garage, and the girlfriend said it was time to get rid of a few because I wasn't using them. But I've recently moved into this one here. So this is one of their more recent models, you would say. It's probably a couple of years old now, this one. 34 inches. It's got your stroke lab on there as well. But I'll be honest, I do rotate my putters. The only thing now between the different models that I do stay consistent is the little S neck, the little flow neck, which gives it about a half to quarter sort of toe hang in there as well. And I do keep that in. But this particular head here, which is the 5K, the Tri-Hot, I do really enjoy this. It's very high MOI, it's very stable. Do like the two-tone color head. So this is in the bag right now, and this is behaving itself. So can't see myself changing out of this anytime soon. For anybody interested, 69 degrees on the lie angle, 3 degrees of loft. In terms of lie angles and everything else on everything else in my bag, if we work on the 6-iron specs, for example, 28 degrees of loft. I always go 2 degrees flat. So standard lie angle on these would be 61.5. So I'm at 59.5 on those currently, 37.5 inches on the 6-iron and D2 on the swing weight. Ball-wise, Pro V1, standard Pro V1. Moved into that just because of where they got that model now. Lower spin, great feel around the greens. I think you'd all agree. They sit at the top of the tree. There are obviously some other fantastic brands there, Callaway, TaylorMade, Strixon. But I've moved back into a Titleist ball most recently, and I just can't argue with the consistency of it. So standard Pro V1 for me. Guys, and with that brings to an end my what's in the bag there. As you can see, slightly older models throughout the bag, but they still do a really good job for me. I am going to be looking at some new equipment over the winter time. I'd be really interested to know if you play any of this equipment yourself, or if you've recently changed from any of this into any new equipment and how that's influenced your game, what you've noticed. I'm going to be doing some testing with some new irons, some new wedges, and if I can find anything that goes a little bit longer or a little bit straight at the top end of the bag, I might consider that too. But I hope you found that really of interest. If you did, smash that like button for me. And if you have any questions, as always, let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you, of course. But hope you enjoyed that, guys. I'll see you at the next review. Happy golfing in the meantime.